Hello, happy Wednesday. Long time no see. I'm glad that you joined me again so we can just carry on with our My Father Knew the Secret. We are on page 248. And the way I'm just going to jump right in is because if I pick it up and do this right with what we have left here, if I do it right, we can finish this up by even Monday. So if I can get right in, dive right in, and start reading, then we'll do that again on Monday, and we might be able to wrap it up, and then perhaps we'll get on to a different lesson or studying some other book. So this is such an incredible chapter because I love how it starts out. It is chapter 10, self-care. Still, we are in self-care, but it's laughing. Quote, love and respect yourself. And as you love yourself, you'll automatically love others. End quote, Bob Proctor. If you were close to Bob Proctor, you know that he had a great sense of humor and healthy self-love. Because of his self-love, he had an enormous capacity for great love, to love others completely. Dad was indeed one of the most passionate people you could ever meet. He had a fearless curiosity about him that drew you to him. It kept him young because he never stopped learning or asking questions. Accompanying that passion was his laugh, and it was a laugh that made heads turn and put smiles on faces. Dad knew how to enjoy and how to show that joy. You wanted his light shining on you, and it was never brighter than when he was smiling and laughing. On stage, Dad would talk about how we had to love ourselves before we could really love anyone else in a meaningful way. The audience would laugh when he said, "You should wake up every morning and kiss yourself." And then he flamboyantly kissed his hand. He would then have his audience do it. It was a fun exercise, but he was making a point through this gesture that we must love ourselves first. Self love is the foundation on which all our relationships grow and blossom, and it's the key to personal success. It was easy to notice the people in the audience hesitating at the idea of kissing their own hand in this way, and you could hear how uncomfortable they were in their laughter. Dad would say it's easy to see when a person lacks self-love. Just watch how they carry themselves. Dad's self-love journey evolved with his growing knowledge of himself as a spiritual being. As his self awareness grew, his perspective on who he was and what he was capable of changed in profound ways. He studied human potential daily, paid attention to himself, and started to become clear about the potential within him. He would say that he realized one day that he had a lot to offer the world and that he was just as lovable, valuable, and competent as everyone else. That was when he began to see his place in the world differently. Dad knew that self image is the base from which all things grow, both personally and professionally, and that self awareness and emotional intelligence feed into improving one's self image. I had so much respect for how my father was always working on his own self image, just as much as he coached others to work on theirs. Watching him and having conversations with him about how he was discovering new ways to improve inspired me. He helped me to constantly stay focused on loving myself first and to always be reaching towards growth. I know without I know without a doubt that without a healthy self-love that our self-image will suffer and our base will be unstable. I know it because I have been on both sides of that coin. When my self-image is healthy, I can withstand the inevitable challenges in life without self-destructing. I titled this chapter Laughing because nothing was better than being with my dad when he was laughing with abandon. If you were fortunate to witness his laughter, then you know what I am talking about. It was so contagious. On many occasions, I would find myself laughing just because of his laughter. It was a joyous thing to experience. Dad's remedy for not feeling good, mentally or physically, was to take some time and watch a good comedy. He thought that if you could find something to laugh at, the vibration you are in would change. My father would look for the humor in any situation. He knew there was always two sides, and often more, to everything. By finding humor, he never got overwhelmed. And that attitude calmed all of us and made the rough patches easier. Seeing the good and finding the laughter is a great strategy to conduct your life by. You may have heard Bob Proctor tell the following story from stage. It brought humor to a painful experience in his life, and he laughed that deep laugh every time he told it. As you learned in any chapter, in an earlier chapter, my father adored his mother. When my Nan was in the hospital and close to passing away, the family took turns being there for support. At one point, when Dad was at Nan's bedside, a nurse told him that when a patient is close to death, sometimes they need permission from those they love most, and that the way to do that is to say to them that it's okay to go. So she suggested that Dad give permission to Nan to die. She said it would make it easier for her to let go. Nan had been on a progressive decline. She had not responded for several days. Finally, Dad stood up, leaned over, and whispered in her ear, "Mother, it's okay to go." Her eyes popped open, and she looked wide-eyed at my father and said, "Where are we going?" It scared the heck out of him because he wasn't expecting a response. Where their conversation went from there, I don't know. But I will never forget his hearty laugh when telling the story. He found humor and made a sad moment more bearable. I love that memory of Dad on stage kissing himself. I love how it enticed laughter in a big room with hundreds of people. When I feel sad about my father not being here with me physically, I close my eyes and I hear his laughter. Sometimes I will happen upon a video of his on YouTube and I hear that joy in his voice. It fills me with warmth and changes the vibration in my body. Consider, try abandoning yourself to joy and pure laughter. Pain and discomfort take back seat in our thoughts when we let go. Laughter doesn't erase the pain, but it makes life a little easier to bear. Have you ever listened to a child's laughter? Like my dad, their joy is infectious. A fun exercise for kids is creating a feel good box. If you have young children, I encourage you to try this and do it with them. First, decorate a shoebox together, and then two of you fill it with special mementos and perhaps pictures that make the child smile or laugh. Then on bad days, sit together with the box and go through it. It's an excellent opportunity to teach a child about shifting their vibration, and laughter is great medicine. The feel good box exercise can extend beyond kids. Make one for yourself. I use a glass box that I keep on my desk. It is filled with small items and photos that bring me joy. Self image sprouts from self love. If this is an area you need to work on, make it a priority right now. Let it go. Quote, "Let us not look back in anger nor forward in fear, but around us in awareness." End quote. Leland Val Vandenwall. Leland Val Van Del Wall. Do you ever replay old stories in your mind? Unfortunately, more often than not, the stories we play on repeat do not move us forward, they hold us back. If you're finding your thoughts are looping and intrusive, working to let that go is its own special kind of freedom. Our thoughts and stories are very real to us. They are our perceptions that include data from our past, present, and future. And if intrusive, those thoughts can keep us from moving forward into growth. I grew up hearing my dad say, "Whatever's happened in the past is in the past. The only place that the past exists is in your mind. It is no longer happening to you right now. So don't keep it alive if it is not serving you." Brian, let it go, was at the top of Dad's toolkit when I was growing up. He would listen when I said I needed to talk, and then he would ask me if what I was telling him was making life better. Of course, it usually wasn't, and he would simply say, "Let it go." I remember being frustrated with this when I was young, but as an adult, I appreciate the simplicity of this message. I often just say to myself, that's right, Brian, let it go. Don't try to complicate this. Make space for the good. The opportunity in letting go is identifying what is mentally and emotionally draining you. Then, by letting it go, you create a new empty space that can be filled with conscious thought. I've noticed in my own family how a shared experience gets molded into a memory or story to fit our chosen role. We use our stories to form our identities. We use them as evidence to support the person we are today, and sometimes we trap ourselves in the thought loop we can't escape. My parents divorced when I was 14 years old. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. So the three of us each have slightly different memories and stories of our parents' divorce. Nevertheless, each of our stories supports our viewpoint about that event and how we define ourselves today. We each are biased by our own perspective that is further narrowed by our ages at the time and the story molding that happens through hearing others tell it. Additionally, these memories are also shaped by how we saw our place in that event, as well as the present day role we now occupy in life. For each of us, our stories are correct, even if they are different. My way of thinking was formed by growing up with Bob Proctor and working directly next to him for close to 30 years of our 60 years together. That experience leads me to hold on more positive memories and, more importantly, to let go of negative thoughts. I have learned to give very little energy to the struggles I endured. I know this is because of how I was raised. I know this is because of watching my dad and paying attention when I was a young child. Before Corey and I were married, Dad created an affirmation list that she continues, or an affirmation that she continues to use today. You see, Corey has perfectionist tendencies. She can get stuck in details and have difficulty moving forward. This affirmation helped her so much that she pulled the word let out of it and wrote it everywhere with a dry erase marker. Let was on her car windshield, it was on her bathroom mirror, and it was written across her kitchen window. All places she would see multiple times a day. It was her reminder to let go. What seeing the word let did for Corey was cue her to pause and make space. By letting go of the thought she was ruminating over, this helped her to move forward. At events, my father would bring Corey on stage to recite the affirmation, and that is when he got the idea of how to help others with it. In 2018, Dad had our graphic designer create an artistic rendition of the word let. It was beautiful and calming to look at. He then had thousands of copies made and laminated, and we gave them away at events. He would instruct people to place this placard somewhere that they would see throughout the day. My father knew that the most important conversations we have are the ones we have with ourselves, and that life is really an invisible power that flows to and through us. If life is feeling flat, then we should look for where the resistance is. Of course, it is in our thoughts. So examine your thoughts, the chatter that plays on a loop inside your mind. If that chatter is intrusive and has become an obstacle for your growth, do the work to deal with it. An exercise I have, with intention, you can lessen the emotional burden of the resistance. And when you do this, you will create room for the good you desire to flow to and through you. An exercise I have used to lessen the emotional burden is to identify the intrusive thoughts and then allow myself to engage differently with that memory to gain a new perspective. I look inward and I edit the story, literally. I do this by writing it out on a piece of paper in detail. Doing this helps me to release the emotional weight and make space for moving on. Finally, I look for the good that has resulted. I may not feel equal to the pain, but there is always good. Corey's affirmation. I am so happy and grateful now that I let everything in my life flow free and easy, and I focus only on what serves me toward my greater good. Mhm. Let. That's a nice picture. It's a picture of Bob and his wife Linda. Nice. Consider. If you are held captive by the stories you are telling yourself, rewrite the story. When we are ready to create meaningful change, we can take the step to consciously differentiate between what makes us feel good and what makes us feel flawed or inadequate. Suspend any judgment you have put on yourself and ask yourself the question, how is this story serving me? Examine your thoughts. Are they keeping you stuck in a place that has become your comfort zone? All memories carry associated memories or emotions. However, some are connected to strong negative emotions and tend to be the ones that take up the most real estate in our mind. Start by finding a way to both honor your feelings and to forgive. Maybe it is forgiving yourself. This is critical. If you do not forgive, your energy will be stuck and your creative power restricted. Try being proactive in changing your perspective rather than being passive. Start to notice how much your creative energy you anchor in the past with attached shame, guilt, or blame. These are emotions that keep us stuck. Write it all out. Writing causes thinking and engages our mind differently. That single word, let, can serve as a reminder to quickly move on from any thoughts blocking our energy when that looping chatter begins. You have the ability within to set yourself free. Chapter 11. Success. The power of a vision board. Do you have a vision board? I have a couple of them. Quote, there is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. End quote. Bob Proctor. I've always loved hearing this quote spoken by my father. The quote was originally written by Napoleon Hill. I often refer to it when striving to reach my biggest goal. Here it is in its entirety. There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. The reason I resonate with this quote is that it lines up with one of my favorite goal-achieving tools, the vision board. There is no denying the power of the visual aspect. What the eye sees, the mind believes. I found that it's best to use every tool possible when building an image in my subconscious mind of exactly how I want to live. And the vision board is a physical representation of what you are impressing on your subconscious mind. I begin by gathering pictures that represent how I want to live in my life. These pictures may be for material items like a boat or symbolic things like a sunset on a beach I want to visit. I always include images to me convey healthy relationships. This can consist of romance, friendship, parenting, or really anything. I have included pictures of what I would like our home to look like, how it would appear when completely renovated, and its location. I've also used images of a healthy and fit body, cars that I like, and other things that motivate me. And I use images that evoke emotion within me. Because of the emotional connection that forms when you take a photo, use those when you can. For example, if a specific car is what you desire, go to the showroom and take a picture of that particular car with you sitting in it. Find one in the color you want, and as you take the photo, imagine yourself as the owner and what it would feel like. Make a mental note of that new car smell, registered in your mind the sound of the engine. Now, whenever you look at that photo on your vision board, you'll feel the emotion you held when taking it. You will remember going there to take the picture and the fun you had doing it. You are creating emotion around your desire. I like to frame my vision board collage and hang it in our bedroom wall like a piece of art. This way, it is what I see first thing when I wake up and the last thing at the end of the day. When I look at my vision board, I let my body feel the emotion of a deep knowing that I am ready to receive and I will accomplish everything on my board easily. My stepson Spencer recently shared a funny story about vision boards. A few years ago, when Spencer was in college for engineering, he had a roommate, Tyler, who was a business major. A project Tyler was given in a class was to create a vision board. At the time, Spencer thought it was childish and a waste of time. He felt buried in his engineering classes while his roommate, majoring in business, was cutting out pictures and pasting them on a poster board. Spencer and I laugh about it now because he's come to clearly understand the value and significance of vision boards in building the future he wants. When conducting seminars in Los Angeles, my wife Corey would invite Spencer to attend. At the time, he was living in San Luis Obispo, not far from LA, and attending school. Spencer always declined, saying, nah, he was too busy. Finally, his roommate, Tyler, talked him into attending and asked if he could come along. When we told Dad that Spencer and Tyler were coming, he made space for them at the front and center table, where he could clearly see them and make eye contact. At the first break, Dad came over to Corey and I and asked, did you see those kids? Spencer has not stopped taking notes. At the end of the day, we had dinner with the boys, and Spencer showed us all his notes. He excitedly explained, this stuff is real. This is exactly what I'm studying in university. It's just that it's wrapped up in science talk at school, but the concepts are the same. At the moment, Spencer harnessed the power of my father's work. You could see the wheels in his mind turning, and when he combined this material with his education, he very quickly put himself on fast track to goal achievement. He has gone after and achieved one goal after another since that first seminar, with the vision board now playing a large role in his life. Spencer and Tyler both have become great students of my father. They attended many of our seminars and workshops in LA and even came to Toronto together to attend our Matrix event. It was at that event that they created a business together. It was beautiful to watch how being in the energy of that room and spending time with my father expanded their thinking. You could literally see it happening. It was also during that event that Dad surprised the boys by asking them to meet in one of the rooms one morning before the day got started. Dad had brought his tailor to the hotel and had both Spencer and Tyler measured for custom suits. That is a moment those two will never forget. And both these boys have become regular suit wearers. They've made it a part of their self image. And I know that this is because of my father. Corey and I recently returned from a short trip to Chicago to attend Tyler's wedding. I don't know if he had a special woman on his vision board, but we could tell instantly that he married someone who complements who he is. Spencer was in the wedding party, and it was an absolute joy for Corey and I to witness those two young men where they are now. Also, knowing what the seminars and my dad's teachings did for them both brings us incredible satisfaction. Consider, first, you must ask yourself, am I ready to receive? If you have yet to do that work, you will be out of alignment with the vision board exercise. If you know, you must know that you're worthy of receiving. Take some time over the next week and think about what you would like your life to look like and feel like. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Instead, ask yourself the question, what do I want? What kinds of experiences and physical things would you like to have in your life? What kind of relationships would you like to have? What good would you like to do to share with the world? Begin by finding pictures in magazines or online that anchor those thoughts and desires in your mind, images that stir emotions within you. Next, get a nice picture frame or poster board and put the pictures all together in a way that feels good to you. As I mentioned, I put mine on my bedroom wall in full view. Do whatever works, but please do it. At first, it may seem a bit silly, but in time, you will see it working. In fact, just the act of creating the board will cause a shift in your energy. Pay attention to that shift. Every image I have kept on my vision board has shown up in my life. I may have removed an idea because my desires changed, but I've never removed one because it wasn't realized, ever. To wrap this up, I will return to the question asked at the beginning because for this to work, you must be able to receive. Ask yourself, do I willingly give? And am I ready to receive? Giving and receiving are different expressions of the same flow of energy. To work, they must work together. The rewards of a vision. Thoughts become, quote, thoughts become things. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. End quote, Bob Proctor. In November 2016, my father was to be honored at Carnegie Hall in New York City for his long-time work in personal development, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I immediately booked my travel and flew in 2 days ahead of the event to take in all the city has to offer. I had another motive for arriving early. I enjoy old collector cars, and I knew of a specific showroom in the heart of New York City. This showroom has a reputation for featuring the finest there is to offer in collective cars and for selling these old cars in concours condition, which means that when a car is sold from there, it is as good as the day it rolled out of the factory. My dream car has always been an Austin Healey 3000. It's a car that has been on my vision board for years. So on my first day in New York, I got up early and I took a long walk and found my way to the showroom in Greenwich Village. When I arrived at the showroom late on my first morning in New York, the doors were locked and the lights were out. Normally, I would have turned around and left. However, I knew having this opportunity and standing in front of this door after so many years of having an Austin Healey on my vision board meant something to me, so I stayed. There was a small intercom button on the outside wall next to the door. I rang it to see if I'd get an answer. To my surprise, someone answered immediately and said that they were closed and the showroom was an appointment-only location. I told him that I'd been following the site online and that I was only in town for a few days. I then said that I was very interested in seeing what they had. He asked me to wait, saying I was lucky to have caught him because it was his day off, and he had just stopped by to check something. He said, I'll be right up. I'll be right down to open the door. As I waited, I could see several cars in the window. I saw old Porsches, Ferraris, Jaguars, and other vehicles. Everyone looked in pristine condition. Then the lights came on, and a young man came to the door and let me in. He introduced himself as Kyle. As soon as I walked into the showroom, my eyes landed on an Austin Healey 3000, exactly like the one I had on my vision board. That is so cool. As I walked straight to it, I told Kyle I had been looking for one of these for many years. However, the hassle of restoring one had held me back. This car I was staring was was perfect, and I mean perfect, as if it had just rolled off the assembly line. Now the funny thing is, I'd never even sat in an Austin Healey before. I'd never seen I had seen a few cars at car shows and I always loved how they looked and sounded, but this was the first time I had the opportunity to actually sit in one. It felt incredible, and immediately I was able to see myself driving around Florida with the top down and sunshine in my face, just as I had imagined it so many times before. I knew this one was the one. The car was a perfect 1962 model. It felt and looked like it was new. It was as if I'd been transported back in time. The color was a gorgeous ivory white with black coves and wire wheels. Kyle opened the hood and inside stood a motor so clean that you could eat off it. I sat in that car and let myself feel what it would be like to own it. I walked slowly around the car and took in the clean lines and its beauty. This was exactly what I had been visioning for years. But as soon as we got into talking about the price, I instantly felt uncomfortable. I felt sick. I kept a good poker face, but in my head, all I could hear was a low buzz. Finally, in calm, I said it was far more than I was prepared to pay, and I said I needed time to give it some thought. I took several pictures from. Oh, pardon me. I guess we're done. I'll finish this chapter. I took several pictures from every angle, and then I walked out the door saying I would be in touch with him later. I was vibrating as I started the long walk back to my hotel. I felt like this car was meant to be. It was for me. That moment when you've imagined manifests in physical form is like surreal. And that is exactly how I felt. like this was all a dream. I'm actually going to leave it right there. I'm not going to finish off this chapter because it's a couple more pages. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. We are on page 275, and we are talking about his dream car that was on his vision board. So we will pick it back up on Monday. Looks like maybe Monday and Wednesday, and we will wrap up this phenomenal book. I hope that you're enjoying it. I know that I am. And I'll probably reread it my own self and take notes and do the exercises again after we're done. So anyway, thank you for joining me. We are going to see you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye.